Thank you very much. I can see the Department of Business playing the defense back there, and Larry trying to play the midfield. Today, my talk focuses about the area of mass customization, and we're going to frame it in the supply chain field. And we're going to look for some strategy that the practitioner should rely on in order to succeed in this area. So the topics of our discussion is grouped into four. The main three one are the basic concept in the area of mass customization, what is it? And then we're going to talk about some of the issues and challenges that the practitioner faces to offer customized products. And I'm going to go to then talk about the strategy, the selective one that are very important, we should be thinking about, and if you want to offer that type of product, and then we're going to wrap up from there. So the first topic of our discussion is what is mass customization. I'm going to start by placing it in the history. Remember, we started with the craftsmanship, the area of the craft production, where you have the era of John Deere, one of a time workshop doing your job. And then it went to the area of mass production, where Henry Ford in 1903, I think, introduced the Ford Model T that was put in the market for everybody to buy, the same model. And from there, they introduced some variety in product that they offer. And from there, then the customer started putting their requirements for the type of product that they want. They can then say what they want, and then the company will try to make it for them. And this is what mass customization is about getting the customer involved in the design of the product. So if you want to see it conceptually, the definition is that it's the ability for a firm to offer a tailored product based on the customer specification, but make sure that that product matches the price of what you can find in the mass market. Okay, that's how mass customization is defined conceptually. Now, when we come here is we talk about customized goods and customized service. It should be very obvious from there. These are goods and services made from the mass customization initiatives. Place ourselves in there. And then you're going to say, what can we customize, for example? Many of you have done this probably without thinking about the issue behind it. You go to Nike, for example, you can customize your shoe, and they'll make it for you. That means you're going to specify what the feature that you want for your shoe. You give them the size, and they'll make the shoe for you. My cookbook for our ladies in the kitchen, you can customize your cookbook. If you go to this website, you can specify what you want, and then they will make it for you. And then the garment, Benetton is a company involved heavily in this. You can customize your garment, and then they will make it for you. That's another example. Northeast is involved in this, and there are other companies as well. And then the computer, the famous one is Dell. For example, when you go to their web page, they will give you options to select. In a list of several options, you can specify the type of PC that you want or laptop you want, and then they will make it for you. Now, sometimes people try to confuse customization and personalization. What's the difference between the two? Here, you can think about personalization as just profiling a customer and using those characteristics to make his next visit very appealing and welcoming. The hotel industry is doing it. Next time you call, they say, you haven't said a word when they know your phone number. Do you want this room with this same feature, or do you want this special feature? They'll say to you, Ritz-Carlton is well known for this. So that's the difference between personalization and customization. You're going to talk about the customer contact being very high in personalization. And mass customization is about assembling the product based on your specification. Doesn't involve much of profiling you. That's the difference between those two concepts. And then you should ask yourself, why do we need to focus on this field of mass customization? I told you about the history of product diversity. If you look, for example, Renault, the different car model, we started in 1908 with Ford. There was just one model of the car that they were putting in the market. Remember that funny-looking car in the past? And then look at Renault Ford in 1963. They had 11 models, and they go all the way to 1998, 170,000 models. Now I tried to look for the data for GM. It was so large that I had to stop. Because not only they have many different models, they have different brands of vehicles. So I said this is good enough to show you how the market is being, having a lot of variety of products. Now, why product diversity? It comes from the customer demand. Okay? You know that in the past, we were happy to receive what was in the market for us. But you all know we are all different. We have different feelings. We have different tastes. So at some point, we want to have something that we want. That meets what we want. You can customize your Google Calendar, for example. So that's the idea. You have this idea of different between different customers. And they have their preferences. They have their tastes. And that's where the field comes. There's product diversity, and it's increasing. So if you see then this product diversity, what's going to be the challenge for the company? Look for, in 2003, some statistics with the number of household goods, products around 26,000. If you look at GM, based on the interview, one of the research development team leader, they have over 600 million combinations when they look at all the components for their cars. Now, but do they have to have those combinations? No, but how do they do it? So this is the idea. We're going to illustrate this by another real industry example. This is for our mechanical engineer colleague. You know the power harness in the car. Different function in the window. For example, making the window work, the power window, the mirror. That function is performed by the wire harness. And then, so what then is the problem? Some studies show that depending on the type of, if you look for the standard wire harness for the middle car, for example, depending on the type of engine and the function, they have up to 9 different versions of wire harness. Now, if you look for the unique variety, they have about 7 million for a unique car, different wire harness. That's the challenge that they have. If they just let the customer specify what they have this amount. You saw the statistics from GM for their component. We're going to go again do another example. Look for the personal desktop computer. These are the different components that you know what you use in your office. And now, when you go to their web page, you want to customize your PC, for example. For the screen size, they give you 5 different options. And you can see that here I put only 3 because I want to focus on the desktop. The 7 inches, we just leave that for the tablet, right? Or the Macintosh when they were introduced. We put up to 3 for the CPU, 3 choices. The memory, you have 5 choices. The hard drive, 4 choices. The operating system, another 3 choices. How many combinations do we have here for a unique PC? Little math here. Okay, it's about 540. Now, we are not even including the video card, for example, and other specifications. So this one is on you. For the laptop that you buy, those are the combinations from the Dell website. Try to compute that, you're going to see. It's going to be over 32,000. Okay, that's the notion of product diversity. So why should we worry about it? The cost. Okay, the cost. This picture is telling us from Toronto is that the cost of operational costs or the production costs first decrease as the diversity of product increases, but at some point, due to manufacturing costs, that cost is also going to increase. And the customer you're going to be losing the customer satisfaction because you cannot meet all their requirements. That's the issue. How can you manage your costs, production costs, when you have this high number of products to make? Okay, so the issue, if you look at the name, is conflicting. You have the mass part of it, and then you have the customization. The mass means there's going to be some aggregation. The customization means they're going to be one of a kind, going to do for a unique guy. So it means there are 2 things that need to be done here. You need to have a strategy where you can first do some aggregation so that you can reduce variability. Our colleague here, Larry, will talk about risk pooling. Okay? Forecasting tends to be more accurate when you aggregate demand than for each individual product. So you have the customer demand. Okay? That's changing, it's increasing, it's shifting. And then you have then to deal with that component variety, you have to deal with your suppliers, and you have the administrative complexity, you have the forecasting that's going to be challenging, and then Remember, supply chain is going to start with a better forecasting if you want to survive. No. So some issue then to consider is going to be inventory management, how to manage it when you have this product diversity, how to provide the value to your customer, so the customer service, how to plan for demand, how to improve or minimize your operational costs, and then how to compete. So our strategy is going to evolve around these issues. We're going to look at a strategy to overcome this. So then comes to our topic of discussion today. I've seen some of the issues in this area of mass customization. The strategy is how can you customize goods and services that's going to meet or exceed the customer satisfaction. That's the customer value perspective. Meet your costs at the lowest level, solve inventory crisis, and then outperform the competition. So you need to think carefully what type of strategy you should adopt in order to survive. So the first strategy is information. Focus on a well-designed information network so that you can have visibility about what's going on at every stage of your supply chain. That's the key thing. Because customization is very information intensive. The moment you get your customer demand, you need to find a way to get his product ready. That means your supply is going to be involved, your inventory is going to be involved, and the service level is going to be involved. So you ask me what are some type of information that I should worry about. You should worry about the inventory level, you should worry about the order, the production level, delivery status, for example, if you want to monitor your process. Now, let's place ourselves in the context of supply chain. Why should we worry about the information network? Remember, the supply chain, the basic definition is that it's a network of companies that are linked together to provide a product to the customer, starting from the supplier. And remember that within each stage, there's transaction. Okay? If you are the manufacturer, you need to buy from the supplier, raw material. If you're a wholesaler, you need to buy from the manufacturer. You're a retailer, you need to buy, and so forth. So between each of the stages, there are transactions. Either it can be physically or electronic. You need to manage those transactions. And then with each of those, you have to deal with the lead time. You need to deal with the inventory. You have that hot potato. You don't want to keep too much at your level. So then this is the key issue that we discussed in supply chain called the Bullwhip effect. It means because most members don't want to share information, information is going to be distorted. That means the retailer is going to do forecasting at his level to plan for his sales. And he's going to have small variability from the customer side. And then the guy from the warehouse is going to do forecasting based on the demand from the retailer. Remember, what's the first law of forecasting for some of my students here? The first law of forecasting. It's almost always going to be wrong. So you see that error is going to be magnified as you move upstream the supply chain. That's how you have that form of a snake, increasing speed, picking the speed. So until you get to the supplier level, you have a very big error. So if you want to offer customized goods at a very big speed, high speed, you need to make sure you can share information. And they start with a solid information network. So we're going to talk about the value. I've done some work with this. It's going to provide you quick response to the customer demand. It's going to give you visibility to your inventory. It's going to help you manage inventory and have a good relationship with your supplier so that you can provide the value to your customer in greater detail. So to do that, you need to take a process view perspective. Process is any action that converts an input to an output. Take a process perspective. You're going to look, for example, customer fulfillment. If you want to satisfy the customer demand, what are the steps, for example, to satisfy the customer demand? The payroll, when they get an invoice there, what do? You look at the steps. So why do we take the perspective of a process? As we said in class, in supply chain class, there are several benefits. You want to have better management structure. You want to have control of your inventory. You want to communicate. You want to have visibility of everything that you do. So you don't have to be dealing with quality issues, late shipment, and making your customer happy and then suffering from that perspective. So we need to develop a solid network and start from understanding the mass customization environment. What are the steps? What is done? So this is just one example of a work that I did a couple of years ago for the interested reader. You look at starting from the customer using standard web browser. What's going on when they customize their product? What's the trigger? They start from there, and then you break it down to lowest level in detail. You look at the physical flow, you look at the document and data flow, you're going to look at the information flow. You're going to look for the instant level information. That means the real-time information as going on. You're going to look at some measure of performance. And I won't be wasting too much time. For the physical, you're going to look for the trigger. It's going to be the customer demand. You're going to look for the steps involved in meeting that demand. And then you're going to look for the purpose of each step and who is involved and how information is going to be flowing so that you can coordinate that information. And then the document flow, basically some basic question you should answer when you are designing the network is, what is the purpose? What are the key data? How does the data change across the process as you move forward? And who's going to be responsible for the data? And then you go to the information flow. Again, here it's about sharing data and then monitoring the process on this perspective. And from there, then you can integrate everything by removing those barriers so that data can be shared. And then you can think about when you have that network structure in a price system, SAP, for example, where you store every piece of your information or data flow in a single database, everybody can have access to it. Okay, so for more detail into this, you can refer to my paper and read through it. And then some real-world examples. I'm going to go quickly here with Dell, and then Cemex, a concrete company in Mexico. They did well in this perspective. Okay, Dell, at the beginning they say, there are a lot of variety. How can we sell directly to the customer? What kind of structure should we put in place? They focus on network, information network. And when they did this, they changed the landscape of the PC industry. Great revenue from their perspective. And if you jump to Cemex, they operated for 16 years, and then their problem was, how can we reduce our delivery window, because it was taking too much time to getting the order to the customer. They focused on the network. They call that cement net. And when they build their integrated network to communicate with the customer and share information, their delivery window went from 3 hours to 20 minutes, and they have their sale increased by 19%. So this is very important, the network in a company. Because of our time constraint, we're going to go to strategy number 2, which is customize late. Okay, you need to customize late as a company. What does that mean? It's going to help you reduce your lead time, control better, reduce the lead time, control, minimize uncertainty, and then have a better forecast and manage your inventory. Because as we talk about risk pooling, when you aggregate for many products at the same time, it's going to reduce your error rather than forecasting for individual product. So when you customize late, it helps you achieve this benefit. You can deliver quick to the customer. It gives you the flexibility to redesign new product. Okay, so we will hear that a company should customize late, and you're going to hear about postponement. You're going to hear about late customization. It means the same thing, or delay differentiation. And in this approach, the firm will first start with a common component that the product share, and up to a certain point that we call differentiation point, or push-pull boundary, or decoupling point. From that point, then they can wait to observe the customer demand before they customize. So this is the concept of postponement or late customization. So now, the manufacturer will turn to us in academy. How can we make this process effective, this strategy effective? The first thing is you can focus on the customer service level, because one key thing is to provide the value to your customer. If you want to maintain, for example, 95% service level for the end product, and you promise to the customer to deliver the product in two weeks, what does it take for you to get that product to him? How does that service level varies as it moves upstream the supply chain? We know uncertainty is there. So this is one approach of integrating the supplier and see how it's going to affect customer service. How can you install inventory at different stage in order to meet that goal? So this is one work that I have done, and it's under review now. One approach is to focus on the customer service when you implement late customization. And they will say, oh, we want to manage costs. If you want to differentiate, the key thing is, where can you differentiate to reduce your costs? The point is going to be to locate that differentiation point when you start with common component. Here, that service level is at stake. At the very end, we know it's going to vary as we move upstream the supply chain because of uncertainty. And then you have the pressure from the supplier. You're going to focus on supplier integration to this model. And then you incorporate different costs. The investment cost when you want to shift from one point of differentiation to the next one, for example, you need to redesign your process. The other cost is going to be the cost of storing inventory. And then you have the cost to process at each stage, maybe assemble. And then you're going to look at that overall cost. You're going to try to minimize it, given those concerns of the service level and the supplier. So this is another work that I've done, and it's under review. Another approach here is focus on the customer demand. It comes from the customer demand. That's where the product diversity starts. If you ask, key thing is some people will assume that the customer demand is just normally distributed, and then they will get away with it. They can use that to model. It's easy to model that way. But most of the time, the customer demand will arrive according to what we call the Markovian arrival process. And then you use that to model the system to see how the cost is impacted and where you should differentiate. So this is the work that I've published with Srinivas in this area. Another approach that we can tell the manufacturer to focus on is supply delivery performance. We know most companies will buy their component from outside supplier, even if they are in-house. How does their performance affect the customization process? It means there's some agreement with the supplier when he should deliver your product. When you order the component, I'm going to deliver the product to you between 3 and 5 business days. That 3 to 5 business days is what we call the delivery window. Now, sometimes he can deliver early. When the supplier delivers early, what do? You're going to pay for the inventory storage costs. If the supplier delivers late, what happens? The customer is affected, right? Because you are not missing the promise that you set to the customer. So by integrating the supplier performance, it's going to affect your customization strategy. So this is the forthcoming work and the European Journal of Operational Research I've done with some colleagues. And some real-world example here, to go quickly, GM, HP, and Dell, and McDonald's, Benetton are key examples in industry that have done well with this approach. And there are various forms of postponement out there. One is the labeling, just putting label and waiting when you wait for the customer demand. Packaging is another type. Form postponement, where you do some assemble after you get the demand, is the one that we have been studying. The packaging postponement, the assembly and manufacturing postponement, called also the form postponement or delay product differentiation. So, and this is one that I discussed in class with students in the supply chain course. I take the case of HP, who have won a patent on this. They have a crisis, inventory crisis at HP. So they have excess inventory in some product option in their company, and they have shortage in some product option in their company. So what were the cause? Different geographic locations, long distribution center replenishment lead time. They have highly uncertain market. They have inflexible design, okay? Difficult to rework, and so forth. They have uncoordinated functional interest, conflicting incentive. HP was facing this. What did they do? They turned to postponement, delay differentiation. So what they have to do is to redesign their network, and they wait until a certain stage before they commit to the individual customer preference. And what did that do? Millions of dollars saved from inventory reduction. What was the major problem? They improved their service, and then they reduced their freight. And this innovative packaging, it gave them a patent. They won a patent on this. So that's the case. They have a Vancouver distribution center in Canada, and then it shows you how this approach is really important. It made an impact in companies. And then this is just what they were doing before. You can say they were doing the final assembly there before they were shipping to different markets. And then to solve their crisis, they did a partial assembly, and they wait to know the customer demand for each of the region before they committed. And that was their winning strategy right there. Now, the third strategy is consider a modular design. What does that mean? Certain products are what we call integral, and others are put together with some components that are independent. Okay, that's the approach of modular design. So I'm going to take 2 key examples here. Look at this car. That's an integral design. You start with your one component, you make the final product. Now consider the bottom part, where we talk about modular design. See 2 cars that shares a common component down here. So if you are making those 2 cars for different market segments, you're going to focus on delaying the differentiation by this product. So you're going to do your forecasting at this level. And then it's an example in the car, in the auto industry. And the computer by itself, look at the assembly process. This is what I did when I was doing my PhD. If you look at the assembly process of a desktop computer, it's going to start with the internal component that affect your decision making. The motherboard. See, for the modern PC, of course, there are some new ones. You have the AM2 socket, you have the socket 775, you have the socket 1336. Now, the socket AM2 can only go with the Phenom microprocessor. The socket 775 goes with the Core 2 Duo, and it goes with the Phantom Dual Core, Intel Celeron, and Intel Core 2. Of course, now they have the quad core these days. And then the socket 1336 go only with the Intel i7. So now if you're customizing, you're going to have to focus on the module where you can build each of those motherboards in separate part of your company. Have that focus strategy, and then you can do your forecasting at that level and meet your customer demand. So that's a winning strategy with Dell. Okay, and these are the different type of, we have two different types of modularity, product development and process. Okay, because of the timing, we won't stay time here. And there are example of modularity in product and process here. Consider the semiconductor and the oil refinery, the car, the computer. Those are some example of product. And then you ask me, all the product modular, I'm going to say no. Pharmaceutical industry, for example, they have some generic product. They are modular, but you cannot use modular process to make them because they use a mix to make their product. So it's very difficult to come up with the final product. Now, the last strategy, because of our timing, is data mining, right? You have diversity. You're going to have manufacturing complexity. You're going to have to learn from past customer data and the current customer data, so you can look for correlation. You need to learn from those patterns. It's going to give you a competitive edge. So it's going to be the risk issue for most companies struggling. They can extract rules from those data and try to match them with the current demand so that they can come with new product design. In this area, Kuziak is the current chair of IME at the University of Iowa. To let you tell you, when I wanted to do my IE degree, I applied to work with him. He has a lab called Intelligent System Lab. It was very difficult to get in. I couldn't, so I went to Clemson. He has done extensive work in this area. He said the product development takes 3 phases. There's a phase where you design, the phase where you manufacture and you sell. And then you can learn from customer data to help you manage complexity and diversity at each of those phases. And there's an example that you can do in order to survive with this complexity. Some example, you start with some of the options that you have. You listen to the customer voice, and from there, you use data mining technique to come up with new product families that you can then put into the market. You have this in place, and from there, you can update as you get new demand, design more and more and more. So this is a key to manage complexity in the market. Now, I went too fast. It's time to summarize here so that people can get to class and our colleagues go to their jobs. This is just a quick summary and a note to the practitioner. There are other strategies out there for customer goods and services. But the most important one, as I presented them, and where I have worked also, is building a solid information network so that you can at least crack the information distortion in supply chain known as the Bolwick effect. You have to customize late. It's going to give you the flexibility to respond quick to the market, to manage your inventory, and then to impress the customer with speed. And then you can use a modular approach. Again, it's going to give you some advantage in better forecasting. And you can also use data mining to learn from the past data, past customer demand data, and the current customer data, and then find some correlation among them so that you can survive. So these are the 4 key strategies that I had to present to you today, and there are some more. It's not all. Many examples that you can find out there for this issue. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.